You're watching or listening to Exhibit A, the conspiracy theory podcast for people who don't wear tinfoil hats, but maybe keep one in the drawer just in case. We take a long, uncomfortable look at American history. The parts they printed, the parts they buried, and the parts that might have been fiction from the jump. If you're here for sanitized versions of events, this ain't it. But if you're here to tug at the threads, flip the stones, and maybe lose a little faith in your high school textbooks or any other book, welcome aboard. Martin Luther, born November 10th, 1483, in Eisleben, Germany, part of the Holy Roman Empire. He was baptized the next day on the feast of St. Martin of Tours, hence the name. His father, Hans Luther, was a miner who had clawed his way up toward owning several foundries. The family was upwardly mobile at a time when mobility usually meant a slow cart ride to the next famine. Hans had ambitions for his son to become a lawyer. A proper career that could elevate the family into the new bourgeois class. I'm mispronouncing that. Luther was educated in Mansfield, then at Magdeburg, where he lived with the Brethren of Common Life, a semi-monastic group emphasizing personal piety and education. From there, he went to Erfurt University and earned a Master of Arts in 1505. And then, boom, lightning bolt. Literally, he got caught in a thunderstorm, freaked out, screamed out to Saint Anne, and promised to become a monk if she saved him. She did. So, he did. In 1505, he entered the Order of St. Augustine at the Erfurt Monastery, a quiet place, cloaked in Latin murmurs and incense, devoted to study, poverty, and obedience. But this wasn't your average robe and sandal outfit. The Augustinians had been founded in 1244 and were known for their scholarly rigor and strict discipline. They were influential in shaping theological thought, especially in Germany, and counted among their members men like Johann van Staupitz, Luther's mentor. And unlike some other orders, they weren't just about chanting and cheese making. They were enmeshed in the university system. Intellectuals, some say proto-reformers. They were the Jesuits before the Jesuits, only slightly less stabby. So what was going on in Europe while Luther was scribbling in candlelight and learning Latin? It was a continent in transition. The Renaissance had hit Italy like a wine-soaked freight train, and it was sweeping northward. Feudalism was cracking, monarchies were consolidating, and nation states like Spain, England, and France, they were looking to flex. The printing press had just been born in Mainz in 1440, a mechanical beast that would soon upend everything. Rome? Rome was doing numbers. The papacy under Pope Leo X, born Giovanni de Lorenzo de' Medici, yes, that Medici, was in full swing. Think champagne-soaked orgies and gold-threaded robes. Leo was trying to build the Basilica of St. Peter, a megaplex of faith to rival Solomon's Temple. But he needed funds. Cue Johann Tetzel and his indulgence game. Every time a coin in the coffer rings, a soul from purgatory springs. That was his go-to. Meanwhile, anti-Semitism was endemic across Europe. Jews had been expelled from Spain in 1492, and ghettos were forming. Blood libels, Forced conversions and pogroms were the order of the day. Luther at first hoped to convert the Jews to what he believed was the true gospel. But when they didn't fall in line, he turned venomous. In 1543, he wrote, "On the Jews and their lies," where he called for synagogues to be burned, Jewish homes destroyed, and rabbis forbidden to preach. They are full of the devil's feces, which they wallow in like swine. Martin Luther, 1543. To be fair, and fairness is part of the job here, the Talmud does include some less than loving things about Jesus and his mother. In some versions, Jesus is described as the son of a Roman soldier, and his miracles as sorcery. But that tit for tat blood feud was centuries old by the time Luther got involved. His hatred was personal and political. He wasn't just a matchstick man, he was the kerosene too. In 1517, Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the door of the castle church in Wittenberg, or the story goes. Some scholars say he mailed them. Others say the whole nailing bit is historical cosplay. Either way, the message was clear. The church was selling salvation, and Luther was done playing nice. The theses were written in Latin, aimed at fellow academics, but they didn't stay in Latin long. Thanks to the printing press, they were translated, copied, and spread like wildfire. Within weeks, Germany was buzzing. Within months, Europe was watching. The papacy? Not thrilled. Leo X dismissed Luther at first as a drunken German monk who'd sober up. But by 1521, he excommunicated him. The Holy Roman Emperor Charles V declared him an outlaw. But this wasn't just a theological dispute, it was a geopolitical earthquake. Princes and kings started siding with Luther because it gave them an excuse to break free from Rome. It wasn't about grace alone, it was about power. Let's not forget the same papacy that issued Dum Diversas in 1452, Romanus Pontifex in 1455, and Inter Caetera in 1493. Bulls that authorized the enslavement of non Christians and laid the groundwork for colonization under the doctrine of discovery. Invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens and pagans whatsoever, and reduce their persons to perpetual slavery. Pope Nicholas V. So when the church starts losing its grip, the world map starts bleeding. Luther cracked open the gates. Others poured through, carrying muskets, Bibles, and land deeds. The Pilgrims, Puritans, the American experiment, all downstream from this. So what happened next? Wars of religion, counter-reformation, witch hunts, Bible translations, and a new world forged in fire. But in part two, we'll peel back the next layer. Who financed the Reformation? What dark money moved beneath the surface? Was there a secret hand guiding the monk's quill? And why did the Reformation set the stage for American exceptionalism, manifest destiny, and the idea that God himself had a favorite nation? Until then, remember, we're not here to rewrite history, just cross-examine it. See the show notes for information on where I got all this crazy nonsense. And see you guys next time. Exhibit A.